Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, an Egyptian brokered ceasefire has taken effect, with Israel proclaiming victory over the battered Iranian proxy Palestinian Islamic Jihad. IRGC Quds Force Commander Ismail Qaani reaffirms Iran's unwavering support for Palestinian terror groups proactively seeking Israel's annihilation. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan secures roughly 2.6 million votes, more than his chief rival, yet fails to secure the minimum required for victory, forcing yet another round of elections. An Egyptian brokered ceasefire arrangement between Israel and the Iranian proxy Palestinian Islamic Jihad went into effect at 10 p.m. on Saturday night, essentially ending 5 days of cross-border hostilities, which culminated with both Jerusalem and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, whose lingering leadership resides currently in Damascus, claiming respective victory. In opening remarks at his weekly cabinet meeting in Jerusalem on Sunday morning, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the IDF and ISA for spearheading Operation Shield and Arrow in an exemplary manner.
Last night, we successfully concluded 5 days of fighting against the Islamic Jihad terrorist organization. Before starting the operation, the directive I gave, together with the defense minister, to the IDF and ISA amounted to 2 words: initiative and surprise. I congratulated the IDF Chief of Staff and the Director of the ISA yesterday, also with 2 words: well done. Indeed, the operation was conducted perfectly.
The Israeli Prime Minister went on to highlight that the IDF, in close cooperation with the ISA, effectively eliminated all of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad's senior leadership in the Gaza Strip, alongside at least a dozen of other field operatives who had either attempted or launched rockets and mortar shells toward Israel's southern and central civilian communities.
With complete surprise and continuous initiative, we eliminated the entire Islamic Jihad leadership in Gaza. We destroyed 17 Islamic Jihad command centers. We eliminated dozens of terrorists. We struck arsenals of rockets and missiles. We took out anti-tank units, and much more. For 2 months, since the establishment of the government, I keep reiterating, whoever harms us or tries to harm us or even intends to harm us will pay the ultimate price. Today, the enemies of Israel in Gaza and far beyond Gaza know that even if they try to hide, we can, and we are prepared to reach them at any given moment. This awareness was significantly strengthened during Operation Shield and Arrow. We changed the equation.
It is important to highlight that during the course of the 116 hours of cross-border hostilities, 1,468 rockets were indiscriminately fired at Israel, of which 290 were misfired and exploded inside of the Gaza Strip, resulting in civilian Palestinian casualties, including at least a dozen women and children. Separately, the IDF spokesperson's unit confirmed that Israel's air defenses intercepted 473 rockets out of the 496 it should have intercepted, accounting for a 95.6% interception rate. Regrettably, 2 civilians lost their lives in Israel during the 5 days conflict, including an Israeli Christian resident of Rehovot and a Palestinian resident of Gaza who legally worked in Israel. Both Israeli and Gazan Palestinian victims were consequently recognized by the Israeli Defense Ministry as victims of terror, granting their respective families fiscal benefits in accordance with Israeli law. Meanwhile, the IDF noted that during the course of Operation Shield and Arrow, it attacked 278 targets, killing 6 senior Islamic Jihad officials and 15 other terrorists, and stripped Islamic Jihad of its ability to manufacture arms. The IDF also attacked Islamic Jihad command and control posts and foiled several counterattack and anti-tank rocket attacks. With all of that being said and done, however, during a cultural event in the town of Mevaseret Zion, Israeli National Security Advisor Tzachi Hanegbi revealed that the Palestinian Islamic Jihad maintains in its possession an arsenal of roughly 6,000 rockets.
They have around 6,000 rockets, and they already launched them all. They are a small group compared to Hamas, which has 4 times their arsenal and militants.
Meanwhile, in Gaza, Palestinians flooded the streets of neighborhoods which are dominated by supporters of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which, despite getting heavily battered by Israel, proclaimed victory of the Jewish state. Moreover, most of those speaking in the streets repetitively affirmed their desire to have the terror organizations which represent them conquer Jerusalem.
5 days of war and battle, but thank God it's a victory until the free of Al-Aqsa with God will.
After more than 17 hours of quiet, following the ceasefire agreement that was announced on Saturday night, rocket alert sirens sounded once again at 6:33 p.m. yesterday throughout Israel's southern communities. Shortly thereafter, a single rocket exploded in an uninhabited area south of the city of Ashkelon, causing neither injuries nor damage. Consequently, despite the fact that Gazan officials claimed that the rocket had been fired as a result of a technical malfunction, IDF tanks launched a retaliatory attack targeting Hamas positions in the northern Gaza Strip. While the positions were utterly destroyed, Hamas did not report any casualties. Meanwhile, it is interesting to know that merely a day before hostilities effectively ceased between Israel and the Iranian proxy Palestinian Islamic Jihad, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman held a phone conversation with Israeli Minister for Strategic Affairs Ron Dermer to reiterate the United States' enduring commitment to Israel's security and to convey her condolences for the Israeli citizen who was killed in the rocket attack last week. The American Deputy Secretary strongly condemned the indiscriminate launch of rockets into Israel from Gaza-based terrorist groups, as she put it, which she further stressed endangers the welfare of both Israelis and Palestinians. Similarly, in Brussels, EU Foreign Affairs and Security Policy spokesman Peter Stano voiced the European Union's condemnation of the indiscriminate rocket fire from Gaza toward Israel, while stressing further Israel's right to self-defense. In contrast to a broadly shared Western position vis-à-vis the last round of hostilities between Israel and Gaza, the patron of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, namely the Islamic Republic of Iran, naturally voiced its unequivocal support to the Palestinian use of violence against Israel. In remarks at a ceremony in the city of Mashhad, RGC Quds Force Commander Brigadier General Ismail Qaani proclaimed that Iran will continue to provide unwavering support for the Palestinian resistance, as he put it, until Israel is fully annihilated. The RGC Quds Force commander further praised the Palestinian Islamic Jihad organization for conducting over 30 attacks against Israel and the West Bank territories in one single day, claiming it to be the fruit of the so-called resistance front and global mobilization of Muslims. And while the figures which he provided were simply absent any factual truth, he boasted that the resistance which Iran leads has grown into an extensive axis which has connected different sources and points of resistance in the world together. According to him, the common denominator of this extensive axis is their longing to defend Islam. Meanwhile, in Yemen, a couple of hundreds of thousands of Iranian-backed Houthis flooded the streets of the capital Sana'a to declare support for the Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza.
Death to America, death to Israel, curse the Jews, victory for Islam. Today from Sana'a, the crowds came out to confirm this victory and call on every free Yemeni, every free Arab, and every free Muslim to stand by Palestine and by the resistance with their money, sons, and weapons.
Turning to Turkey, where tens of millions of Turkish citizens headed to the polls on Sunday to vote for their presidential candidate, with two main contenders vying for Ankara's seat of power, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, of course, and his chief rival Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, who received the backing of a large number of political factions who seek to depose the longtime ruler of Turkey.
We all miss democracy a lot. We all miss being united. We all missed hugging each other. Staring from now, God willing, a spring will come to this country, and that spring will continue forever.
Hep devam edecek.
Temennim odur ki akşam
I hope that once all the votes have been counted, for our country, for our nation, for our democracy, a good future, for my God, for my country, for my people, and for Turkish democracy, after all the votes have been counted. And I want all the voters to go and cast their votes without worry until 5 p.m., as this is quite important to show the strength of Turkish democracy.
bakımından çok önemli.
In contrast to pre-election polls, which broadly predicted a Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu victory in the first round, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan managed to gain 2.6 million more votes than his chief rival, securing 49.51% of the final tally.
Şu anda kesin olmayan
According to the current unofficial results, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan received 49.51% of the vote, Mr. Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu 44.88%, Mr. Sinan Ogun 5.17%,
ve Sayın
and Mr. Muharrem in 0.44%.
4 oy aldığı görülmüştür.
Despite securing a comfortable lead over his rival, gaining the presidential mandate demands at least 50% of the cast ballots, and therefore, head of Turkey's High Electoral Board announced that a second round of elections would be held on Sunday, May 28th. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. Please continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time.